What is theory of mind and why does it bring all the psychologists to the yard? Stay tuned. Hi everybody, we've got a great topic today, theory of mind. And I'm kind of surprised we haven't covered this before. That's okay though, because looking back on some of our older videos, well, let's just say we've gotten better at making videos. I mentioned theory of mind in my last video on autism research, and that made me think we should really talk about this. Theory of mind is an enormously popular and interesting topic in psychology, and there's a huge literature to cover. But today I'm just going to give a brief overview so you can at least dip your toe into the water on some of the major questions that researchers are exploring. Side note, you'll often see theory of mind abbreviated TOM in lieu of writing the whole thing out. Of course, when you're speaking, like in a video, you just get to say the whole thing, like 33 times. So what is theory of mind? Unlike when you usually see the word theory, in this case that word doesn't refer to a scientific theory. Instead, it refers to your ability to ascribe mental states such as desires and beliefs to other people. Knowing that someone else may have different knowledge than you or have a different goal from your own requires you to develop a theory or model in your mind about how the minds of others work. Now, this is important for all kinds of social behaviors. In order to deceive someone, you have to understand that the information that you know is different from what they know. Many tasks involve using a theory of mind to understand mental states beyond your own current wants, thoughts, and knowledge. Joking, lying, pretending, sarcasm, persuasion, empathy, and more all rely upon your theory of mind. Because we're talking about an individual's personal understanding of the minds of others, each person's theory of mind may be a little different, shaped by their own brain development and their own experiences throughout their lives. Many developmental psychologists study how your theory of mind forms and changes throughout your life, but especially how it is established in early childhood. Perhaps the very first underpinnings develop as early as 3 months old, when babies begin to smile and smile back at their smiling parents. Some of the most fundamental social exchanges that set the stage for reciprocity and shared attention later in life. Things like following another person's gaze and determining whether someone is looking at them or not are other early steps in the theory of mind development. Pointing at objects typically develops between 9 and 14 months, and that is a clear basis for understanding joint attention, being able to direct and share attention to an object with another person. There are other milestones in theory of mind, such as self-recognition, classically studied using the mirror test. In the mirror test, a child is marked with a dot of paint somewhere on their face or person, and then they're allowed to look into a mirror. If they touch the paint on their face using the mirror, it suggests that they recognize that the image in the mirror corresponds to their own body. Now, very young babies and many animals cannot pass the mirror test, reacting to their own image as though it was a stranger. Now, there are some criticisms of the mirror test and exactly what it measures, which I won't get into today, but however you measure it, self-recognition is an early step to understanding that you have a mind and body that are separate from other people's minds and bodies. But self-recognition isn't the only step in the process. Young children tend to be what we call egocentric and have trouble taking on the perspectives and views other than their own. One way this shows up is in something called mastery of false beliefs. A false beliefs test might go something like this. You say to the kid, "Here's a box. What do you think is inside the box?" And usually the kid will say, "Crayons." Then you open that box and reveal that instead of crayons, the box is actually filled with candles instead. So now you ask the kid, "Hey, if your brother came in here and we asked him what was in the box, what would he say?" Now, very young children will often make an error here, and they will say candles, showing that they have trouble understanding that other people may not know the same things that they know. Older children are likely to say crayons, which demonstrates that they have a mastery of false beliefs and understand that others may have inaccurate and different beliefs from their own. There are many different tasks to study the development of theory of mind besides these examples. Theory of mind underpins several cognitive milestones in development, and famed developmental psychologist Jean Piaget was very interested in theory of mind as it pertained to his cognitive stages of development theory. Now, we've got a video on Piaget, so I'll put a card that links to it up here somewhere. Now, while there's likely to be major advances in theory of mind in early and middle childhood, it almost certainly continues to refine and change throughout your life as the understanding of the minds of others increases. Differences in theory of mind have been associated with a wide variety of disorders, such as personality disorders, schizophrenia, blindness, deafness, autism, ADHD, language disorders, and more. There's a fair amount of nuance to these studies, and I'm trying to keep this overview nice and light, but if you'd like to know more about theory of mind and one of these things, leave a comment and maybe we can do a deep dive. But there's one other area I feel like any overview of theory of mind should really cover, and that is studies of theory of mind in non-humans. Theory of mind is well developed in humans, and we can recognize its importance. As you can imagine, there's been a great deal of attention trying to understand whether non-human animals have theory of mind as well. Some researchers have suggested that theory of mind really depends on language and culture for its development, which would suggest that animals would have a very limited ability to understand the minds of others. There's especially a lot of attention to our closest animal relatives, the great apes, and other non-human primates. A number of clever experiments have shown that non-human primates have at least some understanding of others' motives. Chimpanzee theory of mind has been studied for over 40 years, so there's enough material here for an entire college course. But I'll just give you a brief overview of some high points for now. Chimpanzees will follow another chimp's gaze if it is looking intently at something and check back with the other chimp if it can't figure out what it's trying to look at. When competing against other chimps for food in a task, they will be sneaky and take advantage of hidden food that they know about but that their competitor doesn't. However, in chimpanzee versions of the false beliefs task, they don't seem to be able to discern that the other chimps have different beliefs from themselves. To sum up, they're able to track the perceptions, goals, and motivations of others, but not their beliefs. I should say these results tend to be kind of mixed. For example, in another study, chimpanzees were allowed to beg for food from people who could see them, or from people who had a bucket on their heads and obviously could not see them, and chimps begged from both of them equally. So they didn't seem to understand that begging from the bucket heads was pointless. I can't help myself. I have to share one of my favorite studies of chimpanzee theory of mind. In this study, the chimp got to watch as a human interacted with a mysterious object. Now, if you pushed a button on the object, it would light up and make sounds and was generally fun and interesting for them, like a little party. Come on, you know you want to press that button too. I would. Anyway, there were two different conditions. In both conditions, the human demonstrating how to use the object used their foot to press the button. However, there was one important difference. In one condition, the person was carrying a heavy bucket so that their hands were occupied. In the other condition, the hands were free in the same position as if they were carrying a bucket, but there was no bucket there. Now, when chimpanzees were allowed to come in the room and press the button themselves, researchers measured how they pressed the button. Did they use their hands or their feet? It turns out the chimps who saw someone carrying a bucket were more likely to use their hands, whereas the ones who saw no bucket were likely to use their feet. The researchers argue that the chimps must have understood that the person carrying the bucket was only using their foot because their hands were full, whereas the person without the bucket must have done it because, I don't know, I guess that's the proper way or most fun way to do it, but it was intentional. If they were able to make this inference about the intentions behind the person's actions, that suggests their theory of mind is sophisticated enough to make that distinction. Theory of mind studies have been conducted with a wide variety of primates and birds, especially corvids like crows, and have yielded at least some evidence that animals can exhibit theory of mind-like abilities, if not exactly like human theory of mind. Like I said earlier, this is meant to be a brief overview of some of the cool research that's been done on theory of mind, so we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. This topic is relevant to many branches of psychology. One I didn't talk about yet is artificial intelligence, both in terms of how we impose our theory of mind onto human-like robots, but also how we would be able to recognize artificial theory of mind when it arises. If you'd like a video on that or any other deep dives into theory of mind topics, leave a comment. We'll see what we can do. If you want to say thank you for this video, hit the like button, subscribe to get more videos on all things psychology, and until next time, keep thinking. Theory of mind.